Sensing his distress, Catherine suggested a break, a respite from work. A vacation seemed like the ideal escape. Nathan agreed, and they planned a trip to Miami, hoping the change of scenery would bring solace. Surprisingly, the vacation did wonders for Nathan. His mind seemed clearer, and the haunting hallucinations were absent during their time away. Upon returning home, a sense of normalcy enveloped Nathan. He felt happier and more alive until he slept. Another nightmare descended upon him, trapping him in a surreal and horrifying landscape. In the dream, downtown transformed into a nightmarish scene. Hellish creatures ran rampant, reveling in the massacre of innocents. Nathan found himself amidst this chaos, a helpless witness to the unfolding horror. A creature approached him, urging him to join in the carnage, a demand Nathan vehemently refused. Awakening in a cold sweat, Nathan tried to calm himself in the bathroom, splashing water on his face. However, when he glanced at the mirror, a chilling realization struck. The reflection showed him in the Stull Cemetery's church. His voice trembled as he tried to convince himself it was just a dream. As a drop of blood fell from above, staining his head, he looked up to the sky to witness a downpour of blood. Panic seized him, and he bolted out of the church, only to find the cemetery overrun by grotesque creatures burying people. One approached Nathan, beckoning him to join their grisly task. "No!" Nathan screamed in terror and fled. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't escape. All around him, the creatures closed in, chanting, "Welcome home, Nathan," as he struggled in vain against their malevolent presence. Gasping for air, Nathan snapped his eyes open, frantically checking his surroundings, desperate to confirm he wasn't trapped in the same nightmarish reality. Feeling utterly overwhelmed by his nightmarish experiences, Nathan sought professional help and booked an appointment with Tina Paulette, a renowned psychologist in Kansas and Missouri. As Nathan recounted every detail about his haunting hallucinations and distressing dreams, Mrs. Paulette offered insights. She suggested that such experiences might be rooted in past fears and advised Nathan to confront his inner demons. Facing your demon could end your horror. If you show your demon that you are stronger than him, you can take over the control, Mrs. Paulette explained. However, during their conversation, an abrupt noise momentarily disrupted the room, rendering everything momentarily inaudible before returning to normal. Nathan's focus shifted back to Mrs. Paulette, intent on listening to her counsel. And you find your way to home. You have bonded your life with your home. Don't waste your time and go back where you belong to, she continued, wearing a perplexing smirk that left Nathan bewildered. "What?" Nathan questioned softly, but his voice seemed lost amidst the oddity of the moment, leaving Mrs. Paulette unaware of his confusion. "This situation. And it can make you hallucinate, which is normal. Try those steps that I've suggested to you, and we can continue in our next session," Mrs. Paulette concluded. "Next session, we've just started." Nathan paused, glancing at the clock, realizing an hour had passed, yet it felt like mere seconds. It was as though an hour of his life had vanished. "Thank you, Mrs. Paulette. See you at the next session." Nathan hurriedly bid farewell, leaving Mrs. Paulette's office in a rush, ignoring her attempts to call after him. "What's going on?" Nathan mumbled inside his car, pondering Mrs. Paulette's enigmatic words. "You have bonded your life with your home. What does it mean?" Nathan felt as though there was a puzzle to be solved, Yet his experiences provided no clear answers. His phone rang. It was Lucas, his brother, in town and wanting to grab a meal together. They met at their favorite BBQ joint, hoping for a moment of comfort amidst the turmoil. Nathan opened up about his haunting experiences to Lucas. Since that day at the cemetery, everything's been off. It feels like I'm stuck in a nightmare, Nathan confessed, his seriousness stifling Lucas's initial attempt at humor. Dude, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make light of it, Lucas said, realizing the depth of Nathan's distress. It must have been terrifying. I can't imagine. It's like a twisted reality. I can't tell what's real anymore. My mind is playing tricks on me, Nathan revealed, his eyes closed, teetering on the verge of tears. I'm sorry, man. I wish I understood why this is happening to you, Lucas expressed, his concern evident. But you'll get through this. I'll do whatever it takes to help you. Nathan delved into his thoughts, pondering the connection between his experiences and their visit to the cemetery. I saw the cemetery in my dream. Maybe my fear of that place got triggered, he mused. Uncle Ben, rest in peace. His spooky stories did give us quite a scare, especially about that cemetery. Lucas tried to lighten the mood. Do you remember the tales he told about the cemetery? Nathan inquired. Not much, just strange stuff. Supposedly, it's where those who deserved hell were buried. Some stories about opening the gates of hell with their blood. Lucas recalled fragments of the tales. Blood, Nathan muttered, a realization dawning on him. What? Lucas asked, puzzled by Nathan's sudden focus. My hand bled a bit from a splinter that day, Nathan reminded Lucas. Don't be ridiculous. Let's enjoy our meal. I need to head back to Lawrence. Lucas diverted, attempting to steer away from the unsettling conversation. After finishing their dinner, Lucas went back home. Meanwhile, Nathan was on his way home, but kept repeating blood while driving. He was convinced that the cemetery might hold the answer to all of this. He also remembered what Mrs. Paulette had said when he was hallucinating in her office. Don't waste your time. Go back where you belong to. He took a deep breath and made a U-turn, heading towards Stull Cemetery. Upon arrival, the cemetery was dark with no nearby lights. His heart pounded. He felt the urge to return to his car and head back home. But a nagging feeling persisted that if he didn't confront this, the nightmares would haunt him forever. It was eerily silent as he entered the cemetery, moving toward the church while checking the tombs along the way. It felt as though something might emerge from one of them. The sky was open, stars shining brightly. The church door was ajar. Nathan entered the roofless church, uncertain of his next move. It was small and devoid of anything except a dusty mirror on the wall and a wooden crucifix on the table. He approached the table to inspect it, studying the Jesus sculpture. You made me bleed, he mumbled, and suddenly a devilish laugh echoed within the church. He scanned the area, but couldn't pinpoint the source of the voice. Then he shifted his gaze back to the crucifix in his hand and was shocked. The Jesus sculpture turned its head to make eye contact with Nathan, smiling. Horrified, Nathan threw it aside and stepped back, intending to flee the church. Abruptly, everything transformed as if by magic. The roofless, empty church morphed into a normal one with rows of benches and lights on. Nathan was convinced it wasn't real. He closed his eyes, repeating, "It isn't real. It isn't real." When he opened his eyes again, he saw demon-like creatures sitting on the benches, listening to the pastor's sermon. And our Father will rise from hell. Heaven has lost, the pastor proclaimed, while the creatures cheered. You, son, Nathan, welcome home, the pastor addressed him, and all eyes turned to Nathan. The creatures stood and began walking towards him, chanting, "Welcome home." Overwhelmed, Nathan closed his eyes, sinking to the floor, crying out, "This isn't real." "Nathan," a voice nearby said, gripping Nathan's shoulders. "Brother, are you okay?" The voice persisted. Nathan turned his head and saw Lucas beside him. "Lucas, what are you doing here?" Nathan asked, still in disbelief at his brother's sudden appearance. "Man, I was worried about you. On my way back home, I couldn't stop thinking about you. I wanted to be with you through this. I turned back to find you, and I saw you driving in this direction on the opposite side of the road. I tried calling you, but you didn't answer, so I followed you here." Nathan couldn't contain his emotions. He hugged Lucas tightly, tears streaming down his face. "Please help me end this," Nathan pleaded through tears. Lucas held him even tighter. "I'm here, brother. You'll be fine. I'll be with you until the end. No matter how difficult it gets, you've made it this far." "You're home," said Lucas, his last sentence resonating in Nathan's mind. Suddenly, Nathan snapped out of his emotional haze. The church still appeared normal, the roof intact. His overwhelming feelings had clouded his perception of reality. Nathan stepped back, horror etched on his face as he looked at Lucas. Yet, Lucas smiled back at him. Blood began flowing from Lucas's head down to his toes, but the devilish smile remained. Nathan tried to convince himself it wasn't real, but seeing his brother covered in blood sent his heart racing. "Welcome home, brother," Lucas said, and then his body exploded, scattering blood and organs across the church. Nathan, now drenched in his brother's blood, screamed until his throat nearly gave out. In an instant, the dead silence returned. He opened his eyes to find everything back to normal, the moonlight shining above the roofless church. Nathan checked himself. No blood, and he was utterly alone. Taking a deep breath, he heard the devil's laugh again. He instinctively reached for his gun. The laughter echoed within the church. "This isn't my home," Nathan yelled in fury, tossing his gun. It struck the church door with a resounding thud, dislodging something between the door and the wall. Nathan investigated. A piece of wood, probably once hung on the door, with a cryptic inscription. In truth, hell is not a distant exile to which one is banished, but a relentless curse that dwells within. Nathan furrowed his brow, puzzled by the message's meaning. Another round of laughter echoed through the church. Nathan picked up the gun, still holding the piece of wood. The mirror seemed brighter, and the closer he got, the louder the laughter became. The mirror showed Nathan's face, telling the story of everything he'd been through. His sad expression changed slowly into a sneaky grin. He couldn't look away from his reflection. "Welcome home," echoed his reflection in the mirror, a sharp smile etched across its face. Nathan aimed the gun at the mirror, unaware that it was, in fact, pointed at his own head. "Shut up!" Nathan cried out in agony, raising the hand clutching the wood and pulling the trigger. His lifeless body slumped to the floor, blood staining the wood, yet the words remained starkly visible.